Hey everyone, Gnorrat here. Last week I told you all that I could not get my hands on Beryl, so I had to move the Primite deck profile, but now I have mine, and it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise because the list I had planned for the last video would have been assuming the new text of Beryl, which lets you add it to your hand during your opponent's tempo phase. In the meantime, Konami has fixed that on their database, so it has the original text where you can only add it to your hand during your turn. So that changes up the way the deck plays and also the way the deck is built. So luckily I had 1 week now to think about that a bit, and today I wanted to show you 4 ways where you can take Primite Fiendsmith. Obviously there's a lot more you can do with Primite, that's why I like the engine so much. But I wanted to give you 4 lists you can use as starting points for Primite Fiendsmith, starting with the OCG list, the standard one, and then talking about some packages there. So if you want a combo video on it, let me know in the comments, but for today I wanted to show you just the deck lists and some interactions between the decks, but no like fleshed out combos because that would like explode the length of the video. So yeah, let's hop into the first list, being the OCG standard list. Alright, so let's start with the first deck profile, very cookie cutter. A lot of like the ideas are from the OCG. Obviously the OCG has hits to Fiendsmith, so we can play more Fiendsmith cards, but on the other hand we don't have Lacrima, the extra deck Lacrima, that is banned, so we have to work around that, making this card a bit harder to summon, but it's still a nice inclusion to the deck. So let's start with the main deck though. So first up, we'll have 3 of the Lacrima, still the best normal summon in this deck. You'll see in a second why we run 3 here. I've seen a lot of OCG lists running 2 or even 1 of this, but I think in our format this is just, as long as you have like a hand trap heavy format, this card is just so good against hand traps, so I would always run 3 of these. Then you have the Engraver. I own 2, so I run a Sanct as well, just so that if you draw Engraver alongside the Tract, which we run 3 of, so if you have both, you can use the Engraver to search the Sanct and don't have to waste it on like a trap or something. But if you have a 3rd Engraver, play the 3rd. It also helps with outing Detonator. And then we of course have Lurie and Fiendsmith in Paradise. There is another Fiendsmith card that you can play from the new set, being Fiendsmith Kyrie. Has cool applications. It lets you can banish this card from the graveyard and fuse a Fiendsmith monster, and you can also use equipped monsters as material. So what that does is you can fuse your Desiree with the equip on the Desiree after it's been used for negation, and go into the new fusion monster, and that triggers Desiree's effect to send a card on the field, so it just layers the interactions even further. But I didn't want to run 2 traps, and Fiendsmith in Paradise for what we want to do with this deck, being having a high floor and a lower ceiling, is the correct choice. This would raise your ceiling a bit more, this raises your floor a bit more, if that makes sense. So let's put this away. That'll cover the Fiendsmith cards, and you'll see that consistent throughout all the lists. But for the Primite cards, we have 2 Ether Beryl now. Some of you might think this is not correct, and we have to run 3. If you want to run 3, you can do it. My philosophy here is that Lacrima on its own beats a hand trap, sets up disruptions through hand trap. The Lordly Load on its own beats a hand trap. Whereas the Beryl, if Beryl gets impermed, then you just have a Beryl on board. Now, when Blue Eyes comes out, imperm on Beryl doesn't matter that much, because you can link it off into the Blue Eyes Link 1. So on Blue Eyes, obviously, you play 3 of those, but in this version, I would play 2. So you have 5 of your normal summons with the Lacrima. You can even go further down, because White Duster and Lurie sometimes also are a normal summon, so getting these out of hand might be tough. So if you want, you can go to 2 Lacrima, but I wouldn't go further up. Then we have 2 Roar. This just have more redundancy with your Fiendsmith enablers, plus this also can be a disruption. And if you draw a second copy, it just means you have drill beam enabler if you want to. And speaking of drill beam, there is the drill beam. We run one, we can recur it. So there are lists in the OCG which play 2 or 3 of them. In that case, you would have to max out on the roar and also on the Beryl, just so you have a higher chance of finding a Primite card in your hand, so that you can activate this right away. Then it becomes a good going second card if you can just activate it without having any setup. And that is the Primite cards, but that's not the end of the Primite engine, because the vanilla we choose for this version are White Dust Stun, obviously for the Fiendsmith stuff, but also psy-frame driver. This, in my opinion, if you don't want to do anything special with the deck, is the best target you can have. It's level 6, so it lets you make rank 6 plays. It's not a fiend, so it's not like the Summon Skull can make Caesar, so you have to make Lars. But above all, what it allows you to do is just you can run 1 Gamma. This card is just so good. It's one of the few hand traps that just stops Lacrima. It's good against Malice because you deny the effect on the field and you also get rid of the body, unless they have the trap, obviously. But even then, they will, if they have the trap, they banish their Malice, but they still don't get the effect. They just get the Malice back. And also, obviously, it protects your play, so you can, if you start playing and you have this, you can just start playing Fiendsmith stuff, discard Engraver. If they hand trap you, you have Gamma. If you use Tract, you can Gamma. If you use Lurry, you can Gamma. Even if you have the Requiem on field and then you tribute it, your field is empty again. So again, if they want to Ash that, you can Gamma. Huge punish. Which leads us into the hand traps. So in addition to the Gamma, we have the 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, 3 Imperm. This deck kind of needs hand traps because the board is not oppressive. So you don't want to be on board breakers unless it's Droplet. Droplet is a very good addition if you want. So Ash, Veiler, Imperm, and also Nibiru and Droll. I'm a big fan of Droll right now. Obviously, you can adapt this lineup as much as you want. If everyone in your locals plays Malice, then I honestly wouldn't play this because this Malice is a bit of a tough matchup, but you can main deck Lancia if you're like really against Malice. And then lastly, if you run the pure version, you can run Dominus Purge. It will limit your extra deck a bit and also your grind game because of the hand traps. So I'm not 100% on it, but it's a powerful card, so maybe it is worth playing. Especially if you have such a high amount of hand traps. At some point the quality goes off, and I'd rather run this than a Mourner. But if you want to run Ogre, for example, you can do that instead. Now, let's go to the extra deck. We have the 1 Rex Tremende. This card is pretty cool. Usually not part of your first turn board because it's just the Taurus code. But the on-summon effect lets you put a Light Fiend from your deck or extra deck into the grave, and if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a Fiendsmith card that is either banished or in the grave to your hand. So this is just another way to have more grind and also recur stuff that got banished. For example, if they Bystial your Engraver, they Bystial your Requiem, you can recover it with this. It also gives you another fusion to shuffle back your Desiree from your grave if you use sequence. And more importantly, the materials on this is a Fiendsmith fusion and any fusion or link monster. So in the grind game, what you can do is you can go sequence, shuffle back your Desiree, and then any of your link monsters in your deck. Best example would be SP Little Knight. Shuffle that back, recycle it, and you have it back. This card is the reason, like this interaction with the recycling is a big reason why I'm not too sure on Dominus Purge right now, because obviously then you can't use SP again. On the other hand, this card is important because it's a light and it's a threat. So once you're under Dominus Purge lock, you want more cards that still work, and this is a threat that can work even after you resolved Purge. Then we run 2 Desiree. With Rex Tremende now in the game, you can consider going to 1 Desiree. In this version of the deck, the extra deck is not that tight, so we just say we run 1. I mean, we run 2 Requiem, because if this gets banished, even though you can recur it, it's tough to play. So 2 of the Requiem. Then also the Agnum Day and the Sequence. Just more pure Fiendsmith stuff. Obviously, I don't have to explain this. And the Agnum Day for cute plays you can do with the Desiree and the Rex Tremende. This card also allows you to play a bow. Now, I don't have a bow in this list right now, the new Link 4, but it's definitely a strong inclusion in this deck, and I'm considering just putting it in now. Also have the Caesar package, Necroquip, and Caesar himself. And lastly, Moon of the Closed Sky. In this version, not as core. If you want to swap this out for something else, usually you go into your Fiendsmith line using your Light Fiends, but usually this comes up in the grind game. So after you have used your Caesar, for example, you want to link it off, go back into your Fiendsmith engine. So it's a nice piece to have. Then we have IP, SP. SP, in my opinion, should be in this deck 100%. IP, on the other hand, is more of a flex slot, but I like it, especially if your opponent nibs you, which sometimes can happen. You will have the token, and don't want to use the token plus anything. Make the IP, and then once Lacrima brings back Requiem and summons another Lacrima, you'll have a body to link off with the IP. Then we have the 2 generic MVPs for this meta, Typhon and Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel is still, I think, the biggest extra deck threat outside of Detonator right now, and Typhon is a check to Detonator. And then the last card is the Lars, just so that we have something to do with the psy-frame driver. Unless you just want to do IP plays, then you can just make IP plays and cut this for whatever you want, for example, in a bow. Alright, that is the standard list, very inspired by the OCG, but let's look up some cooler lists right now. So most of the lists I will show you now are largely the same, and you can swap things around, obviously, but at core, these cards that you see right here should be in most of them. Obviously, the non-engine is flexible. So it's 3 Lacrima as your normal summon. We have the 3 Engraver, if you have them, or 2 in my case. 3 Tracked, Lurry, Paradise, and the Primate engine. Just 1 Beryl. The second one is flexed. The third one is also flexed. You'd have to make it out between the Lacrima and the Beryl, as you like. 1 Roar. You can obviously run a second, as I did before, but at least have 1 Roar. The 1 Drill Beam, the White Dust Town, the second Vanilla is always flexible, and then the extra deck is mostly like this. 2 Requiem I still think you should have, but Desiree you can cut down to 1. The others are optional. So take a screenshot of this right now, because I will take these all off the table so that I can just talk about the other slots that you can fill in for the rest of the deck. Now, if you've been watching my Primite videos, you will know that my first video was on Bystial Fiendsmith Primite, and since the meta shifted heavily into everyone playing Fiendsmith again, Bystials have gone up in value a lot, so it's time to revisit this idea. Now, you'll see a bunch of different things as opposed to my standard list, so let's just talk over the obvious stuff. We definitely run 1 Magnamut. We run the Regained, and also wanted 2 Druisworm, because Druisworm is really good right now, but 3 is a bit excessive, and the 1 Baldrake just to have another name. Now, the other list had 3 Lubellion, but if you've seen other lists, a lot of people talk about how this card was just so bad going second. Now you can still obviously run 3 and then side it out. But I decided on just having 1. Now you will say, why would you run just 1 Lubellion and the Regained? Then you just never see this combo, right? But the idea behind this version is to, with load, you can summon your Vanilla, link it off into Striker Dragon, bring it back, and then like one is off raw, one is off load, and then you go into seals. And seals has this cool interaction where if you use it on your opponent's turn, you will summon a Magnamut. Magnamut triggers, and in the end phase, you can actually search either your Lubellion, if you want to get into that engine, or you'll get your Beryl. So you can flex between either your Drill Beam or your Regained engine while still committing to the Fiendsmith line, which I think is a very cool interaction and why I like having dragons as my vanillas. Now, you've seen the Luster Dragon, and you'll know that most lists had the Alexandrite dragon, but now that we have Beryl and we want to recur Beryl, having Alexandrite is actually a liability because both of your normal monsters will be light, and I just said that Bystials are popular right now, so if they banish both of your vanillas, your Drill Beam engine is gone because you will not recur your Beryl, and thus you will not recur your Drill Beam, and you'll also miss one body per turn. So I gave up on the 100 attack and the ability to make Chaos Angel with my vanilla, which didn't come up really, to have a vanilla that is immune to Bystials. And also it's super nostalgic, so I'm very happy to play it. Now, another version I had, which currently is my favorite for a pure version, would be to not play a big Bystial engine. So you'll take these 4 out. The only thing you'll keep is these 2. And you'll have the Luster Dragon still as your vanilla, and you will still keep this interaction because I think this is really strong. And instead of the Lubellion and Regained package, you'll have 4 more slots, and you just fill it out with more generic cards. So that being another Roar, just to have more access to the dragon or your Fiendsmith engine, depending on what you have. And 3 non-engine of your choice can also be Droplet. I'm a big fan of Droplet right now, if you want more board breaker approach. But this is kind of a middle way between the 2 lists I showed you just now, and I kind of like it. So probably my favorite list right now, except for the one that I'm going to show you right now, which is pretty cool. So see you in a sec. Now the last list that I wanted to show you goes back to Driver, just because it's a good generic option, but also it has a lot of synergy with the package that we want. You will have to make another space for the Gamma. In my case it was the Sanct, but you have to find out what to cut in that case, because this would be 41 otherwise. And for the last 6 slots in the main deck, what we can run is a package of 3 Wanted, 1 Diabell Star, Azamina Deception, and the Hallowed Azamina, giving you access to the Murcielago and the Lea Silva. So an issue I had with this deck in this new format is that the board turn 1 actually did not have enough interactions, especially since they reverted the hit, the buff to Beryl. So instead what you can do is just have this small package to increase your ceiling of the board 1. The Murcielago giving you an extra body just so that you can actually go into your moon with a Diabell Star and Murcielago. So that bridges in the Fiendsmith line, and you'll have the Omni Negate here, and obviously the Gamma can protect this and the Deception in some cases. So that's just extra synergy there. And most importantly, the Diabell Star has nice synergy with your other engines. So this has to send a card to summon itself, but for the Fiendsmith engine you can just send an equip. And for the Primite engine, what you can do is you can send the Drill Beam, and like you go load, get Beryl set Drill Beam, send the Drill Beam that you just set for Diabell Star, and because you have the Beryl you can just reset the Drill Beam and you just had a free Diabell Star. If you don't have the Drill Beam, and because you went into Fiendsmith with your load, you can also just send the load instead. That works as well. And what's also nice about this engine is that it the Hallowed Azamina recurs itself, so you can just shuffle these back, and recurring threats is a theme of this deck. Now, you will see that I don't have another Sinful Spoils target. I usually just search the second wanted here, but that means you have to shuffle back your Deception. You can either play another Deception and just send that, so you have one engrave, or what you can do is you can experiment a bit with the other targets. One thing I wanted to try out, but I haven't found the good line yet, is playing the new Fusion spell, the Quick Play Fusion that requires you to just have a Fiend, Illusion, or Spellcaster monster on the field. We have Fiendsmith, so we have Fiends, and that will open up possibilities to play my favorite card, Guardian Chimera. Is that the best way to play it? I don't know, but it is definitely an avenue you can explore. Generally, with this deck and this engine, you can do a lot of things. You can even cut down on the non-engine, obviously, depending on the format, and have more other engines in here. So it's not that you just have these 6 slots to flex around. You can do a lot with this deck, and you can also not play Fiendsmith and just play Primite with something else. There are so many funny vanilla combinations that you can do, and I urge you to check it out, play it with yourself, and yeah, that's the deck profile. And leave some comments down below. What version did you like the most? Do you have any special version? What's your favorite vanilla to play in this deck? And see you next time.